All right, Monday morning, everything pretty much upside down. McGraw's going to do my show later, noon to 3. He'll be live at Johnny Londoff Chevrolet. I just want to get the lay of the land here as we're going to come back and do this show from the spot Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve also.
Yeah.
Because Daddy's done used up all his vacation days. So I'll be filling in for the maintenance. I'll be filling in for the maintenance staff for a couple of days. I'll be doing some of that.
You'll be in the chopper with Tim Weiland and filling in for him.
I'll be Farmer Dave a couple of times. But even though filling in the show, I'm not going to do McGraw's show, and who could, you know? So there you go. Thank you. That was my impression.
Gosh,
Thank you.
really?
Thank you very much. But apparently there is a rule that if you do fill in for McGraw, you still have to talk about the stadium. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as much, which is fine. But
you're getting it in right now.
So movement on that to vote from the Board of Aldermen, another hurdle that I think at one point I didn't know we would get as far as we have. Now, it's far from a done deal, but we're getting there. St. Louis Alderwoman Lyda Krewson in on that vote joins us this morning on the program. Would you have been up anyway, or do I owe you?
I would have been up, John. Good morning. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Lyda.
Was it heated? You know, it's not like C-SPAN where we get to watch these things. Was there much infighting?
It was pretty, what would I say, pretty lively. And, you know, because people have strong opinions about whether or not we should have voted yay or nay on the stadium. So, yeah, it was pretty lively. We had a 5-hour debate, I guess it was, on Tuesday, and that's not that normal for the Board of Aldermen. And then we had another couple hours on Friday. So,
have you always been for it, or were you kind of on the fence and then moved to be for it, or were you against it and for it? Did you ever change your opinion?
Well, I think, you know, my opinion evolved a bit as, you know, when it first came out, we didn't have any information at all. We didn't have a financing plan. We didn't have any of that. So that was hard to be either for or against it when we hadn't evaluated it. I tended to be a bit for having a vote of the people, and I did a little tweeting about that at one time, but then the judge ruled against us on that one, and so there was an effort for folks to bring back a vote of the people, but by that point it would have just been a poison pill for the bill. So I didn't vote for that because the timing of it would have was more or less just being against the bill.
They've got some amazing things done on this, and then in the midst of it all, then we get this note from Goodell that kind of throws Peacock under the bus that says, now, wait a minute. We never said we were going to kick in $300 million. Essentially going, hey, you made all this up. So how did that come into play in the board's vote on Friday?
Well, I mean, it obviously was taken into account, but I think really the Board of Aldermen voting in favor of it does not mean we're going to have an NFL team.
Right.
Does not mean we're going to have a new stadium. What it means is that is still possible for that to happen. Had the Board of Aldermen voted it down, it would have been, that would have been the end of it. That would have been final. Now, it's a bit of kicking the can down the road, as they say, in that it's now kicked back to the NFL and the team owner, because they still have to put in a significant $500 million, give or take, amount of money in order to make this happen. So, the NFL, I think, is the next decision that'll be made, and that'll be whether or not Kroenke can move the team.
What kind of access have you guys had to David Peacock, the governor, and the task force in getting information to inform you on your decisions before you voted?
David Peacock has been pretty available, pretty accessible. I've talked with him several times. I think many aldermen have. Probably most aldermen have. I've talked with the governor once. But, Peacock was really the head guy on this. So.
And I'm sure Stan Kroenke probably took you guys out to dinner several times.
Oh, you know it.
Informal Q&As.
No, I've never met Mr. Kroenke or talked with him on the phone or anything else. So,
looking back...
and that, of course, is one of the things that makes this difficult, I think, for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Looking back at, and you wrote this on one of your posts on Facebook, looking back at the Edward Jones deal and how bad a deal that was, if this all goes through and we actually have a team. Do you think we'll look back at this years from now, and do you think you'll be writing another post 10, 15 years from now saying this was a bad deal?
I don't think so, because one of the worst things about the first deal, the deal 20 years ago, was that the lease of the team didn't line up with the debt for the dome, which, that was a little crazy. And so that's one of the things that makes it difficult. Whether we have a football team or not for the until 2022, we're going to have to make that $6 million payment on the Edward Jones Dome. And so if we don't have a team, that'll be, of course, a lot more difficult. We meaning the city government, is currently in the hole about $2 million a year. So our payment's $6 million. We get about $4 million from the revenues off having the team here, and then a couple $1 million comes out of general revenue. But it'll all come out of general revenue if we don't have a team.
I would think Stephen Conway could personally just finance the rest of it himself.
Oh, I'm sure he could.
Talk
Your
to him.
Former alderman, right?
Anybody ask him? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we just talked to a representative earlier on the program as they're trying to abolish that earnings tax for the city, that 1% that makes up a lot of cash for St. Louis and for Kansas City. So if that goes forward, what does that do to this project? Because that's more money out of the city's coffers.
Well, if the citizens in April, the citizens will have an opportunity to vote on whether or not we want to retain the earnings tax. And if it's voted down, then the earnings tax goes away 10% a year, so 0.1%, for the nenext 10 years. And that will be a huge gap for the city to fill. The earnings tax is over a third. It's about 36% of the city's overall revenue. And so that would be a huge gap for us to fill. And, I think the earnings tax is about the same amount as we spend on the police department. So that would have to, of course, we're going to have to continue to have a good police force, and many people think we need stronger force than we have right now. So that would be a big problem.
Again, back to Stephen Conway. Just ask him. Just ask him for the money. You're one of my favorites, and remain
I'll tell
so.
him that John said.
Oh, yeah, that always carries a lot of weight when my name gets dropped. St. Louis City Alderwoman Lyda Krewson, one of the good guys. Thanks so much for the time. Always nice to visit with you.
Thanks, Lyda.